Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm the young adult librarian at the Rock Island Public Library. And today I have two books for you that are both available through our Hoopla digital app. So you can check them out there if you'd like. And as always with Hoopla, the great thing is you don't have to wait for other people to return items. Even if somebody else has something checked out, you can also get that item. The only thing you have to look out for with Hoopla is if we hit our daily borrowing limit, which does happen sometimes. So sometimes you have to wait until the next day and then maybe check something out earlier in the day if you want to get it. So my first book today, I dropped the bookmark, but that's okay because I've got my finger in the right spot. This book is called A Fortune for Your Disaster. And this is the second book by Hanif Abdurraqib, and he is a poet and a music critic. He's a really good Instagram follow, which is why I know that he just wrote the notes for, I'm trying to think of the year. I mean, I think it must be 50, like the 50th anniversary of Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. So, yeah, he's written a lot of different things, but this is poetry, and it is, of course, April, National Poetry Month, which is why I'm going to bring a couple poetry books this month, though, it's harder to talk about poetry than like a prose novel because there's not story for the most part. There's not one particular narrative that I can kind of give you the basics about. But I can read you a couple poems, and I mentioned Marvin Gaye. There are several poems about the ghost of Marvin Gaye in this collection, and there are poems about Nikola Tesla. This is a book of poetry about just various things. The one I'm going to first read is called Welcome to Heartbreak, and that's certainly one of the subjects here. And a recurring theme in this book, it's a title of multiple poems, is how can black people write about flowers at a time like this? And there are a number of different themes explored in that one. But for this first poem, this is Welcome to Heartbreak. And it is the version of me fading in photos that I most wish to dance with, just once before the coughing black makes a ghost of him. No one asked me to smile these days, and so here is my mouth, again a straight line, border between an ocean and thirst. I thumb the edges of the picture frame and consider the wood. What tree had to fall in order for this younger and smiling version of myself to have a home? It is the killing season again. All the flowers drag the crowns of their heads along the snow and die with a prayer of softer ground on their lips. I wish this type of betrayal on no one, being born out of that which will be your undoing. Imagine instead the place where you have a bed of your own and a table to sit across from someone who laughs thick and echoing as an open palm at your smallest joy, and then the fingers close. So, yeah, that's a good one. You can. Oh, I should say too, on Hoopla, this is an audiobook. I don't believe that the print version is there. So if you want to listen to it, you certainly can. I believe it is read by the author. And again, the poems, many of them, they explore a lot of different themes. That's just in talking about any poetry collection. It's hard to talk about poetry because it's simultaneously usually doing a lot of things. And with Hanif Abdurraqib, he's talking about being black in America, but also losing a parent and being in love and being falling out of love. But in this poem, I love the title, and the title, tells you what the poem is about. And the title is, "It is maybe time to admit that Michael Jordan definitely pushed off. That one time in the 98 NBA Finals." Okay, this is where the poem begins. "That one time in the 98 NBA Finals, and in praise of one man's hand on the waist of another, and in praise of the ways we guide our ships to the shore of some brief and gilded mercy, I touch my fingers to the hips of this vast and immovable grief, and push once more, and who is to really say how much weight was behind Jordan's palm on that night in Utah? And on that same night 1 year earlier, the paramedics pulled my drowning mother from the sheets where she slept, and they said it must have felt like a whole hand was pushing down on her lungs. And I spent the whole summer holding my breath in bed until the small black spots danced on the ceiling. And I'm sorry that there is no way to describe this that is not about agony, or that is not about someone being torn from the perch of their comfort. And on the same night a year before my mother died, Jordan wept on the floor of the United Center locker room after winning another title because it was Father's Day, and his father went to sleep on the side of a road in '93 and woke up a ghost. And there is no moment worth falling to our knees and galloping toward like the one that sings our dead into the architecture. And so, yes, for a moment in 1998, Michael Jordan made what space he could on the path between him and his father's small and breathing grace. And so, yes, there is an ocean between us the length of my arm, and I have built nothing for you that can survive it. And from here I am close enough to be seen, but not close enough to be cherished. And from here I can see every possible ending before we even touch. So, I mean, it's definitely a poem where you see the title and you think, it's about a very specific moment. And, to write a poem about this moment, it seems almost lighthearted. Or, if you're somebody who maybe, whether you know about sports or not, or whether like pushing off in basketball, you're not supposed to do that. But I mean, then it's about parent death, or it's the author's mother and Jordan's father, back in '93, and this is just it's one of those things where, again, you get into lots of different themes in each poem. There's these moments of levity, and then there's just we explore death, or we explore what that makes you feel, or what we can imagine might come after. But yeah, it's a really interesting book. And if you like poetry, I would definitely check it out. This is, his second collection. He's got other books, like last year, A Little Devil in America, which is a nonfiction book. And that's not on Hoopla, unfortunately, but it's about, black performers in entertainment in American history, and it was like a finalist for the National Book Award. So if you're looking for just I'm going to try and listen to that one, I think, because it seems like it'd be a good audiobook. And yeah, so check this out if you're looking for some poetry this month. And next I have a graphic novel. This book is called Black Hammer. And this book is the first in a series. This is volume 1. This is by Jeff Lemire. And he's written a lot of books, but this one, it's about a team of superheroes. And in this book, you meet them, and they live on this farm. We find these people. They're living in this place where, I mean, they used to be heroes. They used to be famous as the heroes of Spiral City. But I mean, what happened to them years ago is there was this kind of multiversal event, and they were fighting this terrible villain, but they ended up in this place where they don't know where it is exactly. You get here we go. So here's Black Hammer. The series is actually named for the superhero who died in this big battle. And he is not present in this world. He's gone. But the others, they're here. And I mean, they don't know how this has happened. They know that they're somewhere else. But basically, let's see. So there's Dragonfly. She's got kind of, different magic abilities going on. And then Barbalian, he is an alien. This is Gale. Let's see. I think she's Golden Gale. And she has kind of like a Shazam power going on, where she is a kid, and when she uses her powers, she transforms. And she's got superhero abilities, but in this world where they're living on this farm, they're just kind of stuck in this small town, and they've tried to leave. They can't go anywhere else. I mean, Gail has a really rough time because she's a kid. She's stuck in this kid's body forever. So at least the others can kind of sort of do what they want and be adults and live their lives. And a lot of the book is them kind of reflecting on their lives before. There's Barbalian back, he's a shapeshifter, so he was a human police officer, and he tried to help people in this way, but eventually he was outed in a couple different senses, and so he wasn't allowed to kind of keep doing the work he did to try and help humanity. Let's see. Also, the main kind of sort of the de facto leader, with Black Hammer dead, Abraham Slam is kind of a Captain America type figure, where he's somebody who is very strong. You see them these are our heroes when they're back in the city where they used to live, Spiral City, and when they were fighting villains. And I mean, that's over now, but they're trying to make a life in this new place, and here we go. Yeah, Colonel Weird, I believe, Yeah, he's this guy. He's kind of unstuck in time. He's also, like Gale, kind of having a bad time here because he, is sort of interacting with multiple timelines at a time. Like you find him, this is his robot buddy you see here, and here's him as a younger man. Oh, Walkie's the robot. And like, here he is as a young man, and he's like first seeing this doorway that kind of starts to, cause Colonel Weird to interact with time in a non-linear way. Like sometimes, at one point, here we go, like he goes back, he's sort of, like he's not controlling this, but he ends up back in time and like talking to his wife, and his wife's like, you're dead, and he's like, well, I'm not, but I am kind of unstuck in time. That's why I've been gone. You've been gone for years. And, he's able to kind of go back and say that he loves her. But it's this struggle to, like, just, be with these other people. Like, at one point, he's talking to Gale, and Gale is struggling with the fact that, why can't you use your powers to, like, get us home? Like, why are we so totally stuck? There's, like, a magic user, there's somebody who's unstuck in time and space. Like, one of you should have some ability to get us the heck out of here. And, I mean, basically, Colonel Weird explains that, no, I've tried this before. I've tried to, like, take somebody with me. And, I mean, we see that it does not end well. And it's his wife, Eve was his wife, and, they tried to kind of go on this journey together. And, I mean, you see what happens in the book. Like, this is, she is not, like, she's torn apart by this. She does not survive this sort of strange interaction with, reality as Colonel Weird knows it. And meanwhile, here's Abe. He's just kind of having a drink at sunset. And this is, our resident magic user here. She is somebody who, well, I mean, Dragonfly knows. She knows more than she's letting on. Like, she is somebody who's important because she can kind of alter the memories of people in town. So, like, I mean, Gale, she doesn't want to be at school. She really, like, does not want to have to be in this place anymore and be a kid forever, like, having to pretend. And so at one point, like, Abe's in the principal's office with Gale, and the principal's like, hey, I thought we were going to have a better year, have a fresh start, all this. And then Dragonfly comes in like, hey, so sorry I'm late, I'm here to, like, talk, I'm going to kind of mediate this dispute, because I know, there's been some issues with this kid from my family. And the principal's like, hey, we need to probably get Child Protective Services involved, because this is like a small child who is smoking. And we can't, like, that's not okay at school. And, Dragonfly's like, oh, I don't think that's necessary. And then she just kind of, is able to erase this person's memory. And, Abe is trying to tell her, like, hey, be careful, like, don't be using your powers so publicly. And she's like, nobody's going to see me unless I want them to see me. And, Gale is not really happy at this point. She's not happy for a lot of the book because, she is even more stuck than the others, as I've said. But, we find out about Dragonfly. We eventually get to her flashback and learn about her. Like, each of these chapters in this first book, you meet the different characters and see sort of their old-timey comics personas. And you see them then again in the present day. And, as we're meeting them and finding out, sort of what they're going through. Yeah, there we go. Obviously, there are these old-timey superhero heroics, but then they're in this situation now where there doesn't seem to be any escaping from it. And, all the things they did as heroes, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that they saved the day. It doesn't matter all the sacrifices that they made. They're just stuck in this place where no one knows them, and they have to pretend to be regular people. And then, what happens at the end of the book is somebody new arrives. And this person, we find out, is Lucy Weber. And she is the daughter of Black Hammer. And she's been trying to figure out, for years now, she is a journalist, and she's been trying to figure out, like, hey, what happened to all those heroes, that used to, like, work with my dad? Like, my dad has died, but, I mean, where did the other ones go? Like, nobody ever found their bodies. So, she's determined. She's, like, throughout the book is like, I'm determined to find these people. And she does. You know, she's able to get through whatever sort of reality warping barrier is there that, you know, has trapped everybody in this small town on this farm. And the series is about these different heroes, you know, trying to escape. Because one of them maybe doesn't want them to escape. You know, maybe they've been sort of manipulating things so that people don't know the whole story. And as the book goes on, I think I've read the first 3 in this series. And eventually, like Lucy in the second book, you know, she's exploring this place because at the end of the first book, Dragonfly erases her memory of sort of like certain things that have happened to get her to this place. But at the end of that book, she actually picks up her father's hammer. And like Thor, sort of undergoes this transition to, you know, hey, I'm able to wield this weapon. Now I have powers. And this enables her to remember what has happened and kind of start, you know, they can get out of this. But, I mean, there's all these other sort of threats, you know, now that once they're out of this place, you know, once they can leave the farm, okay, well, there's going to be other stuff coming after them. There's still this sort of issue with the fabric of reality not quite working. And there's several of these. I think, again, you have this sort of like back and forth between, like, yeah, you get some sketches in the back, like early character designs, but also, you know, this idea that, all right, these are sort of archetypes, you know, characters that you've maybe seen if you've read comics before. You know, there's like the heroic alien, there's the, you know, guy from World War II punches Nazis, there's the girl with, like, you know, amazing powers who, you know, maybe starts as a kid but then can become an adult. And yeah, there's, in terms of like the reality warping stuff, like for Colonel Weird and for Madame Dragonfly, like their powers, you know, one is kind of science-based, one is magic-based, but I mean, they still have similar issues with, we're in this situation we can't get out of. And Lucy is the one, like Black Hammer's daughter Lucy is the one sort of like galvanizing everybody to, hey, we need to leave this place. I mean, there's things that we like, you know, Abe in particular, like, has a love interest, this, like, you know, older lady who he really likes. And it's the situation where, hey, maybe we need to leave and figure out, you know, how we were trapped here. Like, who trapped us here and for what purpose? Because, I mean, there's still these threats out there. Like, the world didn't just become perfect the day that all the superheroes disappeared from, you know, Spiral City, where Lucy has been living her whole life. So if you like superheroes, this is definitely like a mix of like the best of being a superhero, like, oh, you know, having your heroics be rewarded with fame and accolades, but also, you know, then they get into this reality where they're just completely anonymous and they don't know how to get out of it. And even when they do, you know, that's not the end of their problems, obviously. It's just the beginning of new ones. So check it out. It's a fun series. And again, both of these books are available through Hoopla, so if you want to check them out, you can. You can also just, you know, we've got, I think, most of the Black Hammer books here right now, so if you want to check out a physical copy, you can do that too. And thank you for watching. I will see you again next week.